to online classes. In the last class, we completed the electric field intensity due to the dipole at a point on the equatorial line, and also we calculated the torque acting on the dipole when it is placed in the uniform electric field. In this today lecture, we are going to discuss about the concept of charge distribution. Before we are going to discuss about the concept of a charge distribution, once again we will recall the concept of a point charge. What is meant by point charge and which charged objects will be acting as a point charge means? If the linear size of the given charged object, will be very much smaller than the distances under consideration, such a type of charged objects we are calling as a what? Point charges. So that in the case of the point charges, their linear size will be very small. Such a type of charges we are calling as a what? Point charges. But in the case of the charge distribution, we are considering the objects whose linear size will be bigger or measurable. In the case of the charge distribution, which type of objects we consider? We consider the charged objects. Whose dimensions are measurable. Such a type of charged objects we consider. The charge distribution is mainly classified into three different categories. Those are, first one is the what? Linear charge distribution. What is the first one here? Linear charge distribution. And the second one is the what? Surface charge distribution. And the third one is a what? Volume charge distribution. So we have how many types of charge distributed objects means? There are three different types of charge distributions are there. Three different types of charge distributed objects are there. What are they? First one is a what? Linear charge distribution. Second one is a what? Surface charge distribution. And the third one is a what? Volume charge distribution. First one we will discuss about linear charge distribution. What is that? Linear charge distribution. So in the case of the linear charge distribution, we will consider which type of objects? In the case of the linear charge distribution, we will consider linearly charged objects. Which type of objects? Linearly charged objects. That means whatever the object we consider, their length will be very much longer with respect to their area. Such type of objects we are calling as a what? Linearly charged objects. In the case of the linearly charged objects, how the charge was distributed means, in the case of the linearly charged objects, whatever the charge we given to the object, that entire charge must be uniformly distributed over its entire length. Such a type of objects we are calling as a what? Linearly charged objects. Once again, in the case of the linearly charged objects, whatever the charge we provided to the object, that entire charge must be uniformly distributed over its entire length. Such a type of objects we are calling as a what? Linearly charged objects. So what are the different examples of linearly charged objects means? First we will consider uniformly charged rod. In the case of the uniformly charged rod, whatever the charge we given to the rod, that entire charge is uniformly distributed over its entire length. So for example, I consider a very long rod AB whose length is equal to capital L. What we consider here? So here we consider that a uniform rod AB which is having a length of L. Whenever we given some charge of capital Q to the given uniform rod, this entire charge is uniformly distributed over its entire length. Such type of objects we are calling as a what? Uniformly charged rod. Uniformly charged rod. And we will consider one more example. Uniformly charged ring. Uniformly charged ring. So in the case of the uniformly charged ring, I consider one ring whose radius is equal to smaller. What we consider here, it is also a linearly charged object. Uniform rod, it is also linearly charged object, and uniform charged ring, it is also considered as a what? Linearly charged object. Whenever we given some amount of charge to the ring, that the entire charge is uniformly distributed over its periphery, so it is also calling as a what? Uniformly linearly charged objects. Uniformly linearly charged objects. So these are the different examples of linearly charged objects. Linearly charged objects. Okay, when we have linearly charged objects, they will be producing the electric field. They will be producing the electric field. In the case of the point charges, to find the electric field intensity, already we derived one formula, E is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q by R square. So for finding the electric field intensity, which is produced by the point charges, already we derive one expression, that is E is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q by R square. So here also, whatever the linearly charged objects we consider, those linearly charged objects are also producing the electric field, so that to find the electric field intensity, whatever produced by the linearly charged objects, we need one physical quantity. So that physical quantity will be calling as linear charge density. What is that? Linear charge density. So here I consider one physical quantity, linear charge density, which is represented by the symbol of lambda. So what is the lambda here? Linear charge density. So how can we define the term linear charge density? Means it is defined as charge per unit length. So the physical quantity linear charge density will be defined as the amount of the charge existed per unit length will be calling as a what? Linear charge density. Suppose we are assuming that capital Q will be the total charge given to the linear charged objects, and capital L is indicating the total length of the linear charged object, then lambda can be defined as charge per length. What is the charge given here? Capital Q. Capital Q will be the charge given to the uniform rod, and length of the rod is equal to capital L. Length of the rod is equal to what? Capital L. So this is for what? Uniformly charged rod. So here also we told uniformly charged ring. It is also said that linearly charged object. For the ring, how can we define the lambda? So the total charge given to the ring is equal to again capital Q. Length of the ring is nothing but its circumference value. The circumference of the ring is equal to what? 2 pi r. So that in the case of the ring, the linear charge density can be given by lambda is equal to Q by 2 pi r. In the case of the rod, lambda value is equal to what? Q by L. So this is about linearly charge distributed objects. The second concept is surface charge distribution. So what is the second one is what? Surface charge distribution. So in the previous case we said that because it is a linearly charged object, in the case of the linearly charged object, the entire charge is uniformly distributed over its entire length. So that in the case of the surface charge distribution, whatever the charge given to the surface objects, which type of objects we consider here? Surface objects. surface objects. What is the meaning of a surface objects? Suppose I consider a sheet. What we consider here? A sheet. So, for the given sheet, if you given some amount of the charge, that charge will be uniformly distributed over its entire surface area. Over its entire surface area. Such type of objects we are calling as a what? Surface objects. Surface objects. One more example I consider here. Hollow shell. What we consider here? A shell will be considered. So, for a given shell, whenever you given a charge, that entire charge will be uniformly distributed over the surface area. Over the surface area. Here I consider one spherical shell. For the given spherical shell, whenever you given the charge, that entire charge will be uniformly distributed over its entire surface area. Such type of objects we are calling as a what? Surface charge distribution and surface charged objects. Surface charged objects. These are the example for the surface objects. Surface objects. See here. Surface charge density. Surface charge density. Already in the case of the linear charge distribution, to find the electric field intensity which is produced by the linear charged objects, we defined one physical quantity. What is that? Linear charge density. Linear charge density. In the case of the surface charged objects also, for finding the electric field intensity which is produced by the surface charged objects, we need one more physical quantity, that is calling as a what? Surface charge density. How can we define the surface charge density? Means it is defined as the charge present per unit surface area. How can we define the surface charge density? It is defined as the amount of the charge present per unit area. Such type of physical quantity will be calling as a what? Surface charge density. It is denoted by sigma. It is denoting with what symbol? Sigma. In the case of the linear charge density, it is denoted with the symbol of lambda. But in the case of the surface charge density, it was denoted with the symbol of sigma. How can we define the sigma here? So, sigma can be defined as sigma is equal to charge per area. Charge per unit area. If we are assuming that Q be the charge present on the given surface and the surface area value is equal to S, therefore sigma is equal to Q by S. Sigma is equal to what? Q by S. Like that we have to define surface charge density. Suppose here I consider that a plane sheet whose surface area is equal to S. Whose surface area value is equal to what? S. For the given plane sheet, we provided some charge. That charge will be uniformly distributed. So here, how much charge was given here? Capital Q will be the charge provided to the sheet and S is indicating what? Surface area of the given sheet. At that instant, according to the definition of the sigma is equal to Q by S. Sigma is equal to what? Q by S. Simply surface charge density is equal to what? Charge by area. Suppose we will consider the spherical shell. For the spherical shell, we are given capital Q amount of charge. We are given which type of charge? Capital Q amount of charge was given to the spherical shell. Whenever it is a conducting shell, whatever the charge is given to the conducting shell, that entire charge will be uniformly distributed over the outer surface. I am assuming that capital R will be the radius of the shell, Capital R will be the radius of the shell, and Q is what? The amount of the charge given to the shell. Now, what is the charge provided here? The charge provided to the shell is equal to capital Q, and radius is equal to what? Capital R. So for the spherical shell, the surface area is equal to formula 4 pi r square. For the spherical shell, what is the surface area value? 4 pi r square. So for the spherical shell, how the sigma will be defined? Sigma is equal to what we know? Charge per unit area. Charge per unit area. How much amount of charge was given? Q amount of charge is given to the spherical shell, and the surface area of the shell is equal to what? 4 pi r square. 4 pi r square. Like this, for the spherical shell, we will define surface charge density value. Surface charge density value. The third example I will consider a cylindrical rod. Cylindrical shell or cylindrical rod. I consider a cylinder whose length is equal to L and the radius is equal to R. Whose length is equal to L and the radius is equal to R. For this cylinder also, we provided capital Q amount of charge. How much charge we given here? Capital Q amount of charge is given. This capital Q amount of charge will be uniformly distributed over the entire surface. For the cylinder, surface area S is equal to what? 2 pi RL. For the cylinder, surface area value is equal to what? 2 pi RL. How much charge we given here? We given the charge of capital Q. Therefore, for the cylindrical surface, the surface charge density sigma is given by Q by surface area, that is equal to Q by 2 pi RL. Q by 2 pi RL. Like this, we have to define surface charge distribution and surface charge density. So what we have to remember means, whenever we given some amount of charge to the surfaced objects, what is the meaning of the surfaced objects? They will be having certain amount of surface area, whether it is a sheet or a shell or a cylinder. All these objects are having some surface area. Whenever we are given to the charge, that entire charge will be uniformly distributed over the entire surface area. At that instant, we have to define surface charge density sigma. For the sheet, sigma is equal to Q by S. For the spherical shell, sigma is equal to Q by 4 pi r square. For the cylinder, sigma is equal to Q by 2 pi RL. Whatever the object they given, first we have to calculate their surface area value, and already you know the charge value. Sigma is equal to charge by surface area. This is a second charge distribution called surface charge distribution. Third one is what? Volume charge distribution. What is that? Volume charge distribution. The third one is what? Volume charge distribution. Up to now what we discussed, linear charge distribution means charge is uniformly distributed over its entire length, and surface charge density means what? Whatever the given the charge, that the entire charge is uniformly distributed over its entire surface area. In the case of the volume charge distribution, whatever the charge we given to the volume objects, suppose it may be cube or solid cylinder. What is the volume objects we have to consider here? Volume objects. Say for example, cube I consider, and solid sphere. I consider these two are the examples for the volume charge distribution objects. So in the case of the volume charge distribution objects, whatever the charge we given to the volume objects, that is either cube or solid spherical shell, that the entire charge will be uniformly distributed in the entire volume of the given object. Such type of charge distribution will be calling as volume charge distribution. charge distribution. So similarly, to find the electric field intensity which is produced by the volume charge distributed objects, here also we need one more physical quantity that will be calling as volume charge density. What is that? Volume charge density. So this volume charge density will be represented with the symbol of rho. So in the previous case, surface charge density will be represented by what? Sigma. Here the volume charge density will be represented by the symbol of sigma. How can we define the volume charge density? It is simply defined as charge present per unit volume. Charge present per unit volume. How can we define the volume charge density? It is simply defined as the amount of the charge was present. The amount of the charge was present per unit area. Such type of physical quantity we are calling as what? Volume charge density. Suppose I consider the cube. So what is the first example we consider? A cube is considered whose side length is equal to small a. Whose side length is equal to what? Small a. For this cube, we provided the charge of capital Q. So what we consider here? A cube was considered whose side length is equal to small a. If you consider the cube with the side length small a, volume is equal to what? A cube. Volume is equal to what? A cube, and total charge given to the cube is equal to what? Capital Q. From the definition of the volume charge density, so rho is equal to volume charge density, rho is equal to charge. What is the charge we given? Capital Q. What is the charge we given? Capital Q, and volume of the cube is equal to A cube. Volume of the cube is equal to what? A cube. Like that, for a given volume object, the volume charge density will be defined by charge per unit volume, rho is equal to Q by A cube. I will consider one more example, that is solid sphere. Solid sphere. Usually we are calling it is non-conducting sphere. So which sphere here? Non-conducting sphere. In the case of the conducting sphere, whatever the charge we given to the conducting sphere, that entire charge must be uniformly distributed over the outer surface only. Once again, in the case of the conducting sphere, whatever the charge we provided to the conducting sphere, that entire charge must be uniformly distributed over the entire surface only, In the case of the conducting sphere, there is no charge was present, inside the sphere. That point we have to remember. Now, coming to the non-conducting sphere. So which sphere will be calling as the non-conducting sphere means, whatever the charge we provided to the given sphere, if this entire charge will be uniformly distributed in its entire volume, such a type of sphere we are calling as non-conducting sphere. Only one is the difference between the conducting sphere and non-conducting sphere. In the case of the conducting sphere, the entire charge is uniformly distributed over the surface. Inside the conducting sphere, there is no charge will be present. But in the case of the non-conducting sphere, whatever the charge is given to the non-conducting sphere, that a charge will be present over the surface as well as the inside the surface. That only we said. In the case of the non-conducting sphere, charge is uniformly distributed over its entire volume. Such a type of sphere we are calling as a what? Non-conducting sphere. If you consider the non-conducting sphere, in the non-conducting sphere, charge will be uniformly distributed over its entire volume. That means outer surface is also consisting the charge, and inside the surface also charge was present. Such a type of sphere we are calling as a what? Non-conducting sphere. If we are assuming that capital R will be the radius of the non-conducting sphere, its volume is equal to 4/3 pi r cube. Volume is equal to what? 4/3 pi r cube. Therefore, volume charge density is equal to charge per volume. Therefore, if Q is the charge given to the non-conducting sphere, rho is equal to Q by total volume is equal to what? 4/3 pi r cube. Like this, we have to define volume charge density for different volume objects. So this is entire charge distribution. How many types are there? 3 different types are there: linear charge distribution, surface and volume charge distribution. Okay. Next concept, Gauss law. It's a very important one. Gauss law and its application. 5 marks question compulsory will be coming from this topic. So first we will discuss what is the Gauss law, what is the need of the Gauss law. So previously we discussed about the concept of the point charges. So the point charges are producing the electric field, and to find the electric field intensity which is produced by the point charges, you have a formula, that is E is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q by R square. E is equal to what? 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q by R square. When we will use this formula means, when you consider strictly the point charges, at that instant only you have to apply the formula for finding the electric field intensity. So this formula will be applicable for point charges only. This formula will be applicable for what? Point charges only. Just now only we discuss different types of charge distributions are there. Different types of charge distributed objects are there. What are they? Linearly charged objects, surface charged objects and volume charged objects. All these charged objects does not be the point charges. Then whenever such type of objects are available to us, and how can we find the electric field intensity which is produced by these such type of objects? For that purpose, one law will be available, that is called what? Gauss law. So what is the need of the Gauss law? By using the Gauss law, we can find electric field intensity. Which is produced by charge distributed objects. So for which purpose we are using the Gauss law? Gauss law can be used for finding the electric field intensity which is produced by the charge distributed objects. Okay, what is the statement of the Gauss law? Very important. Statement of the Gauss law or definition of the Gauss law. According to the Gauss law, the total electrical flux which is passing through any closed surface. According to the Gauss law, the total electric flux which is passing through any closed surface will be equal to what? 1 by epsilon naught times of net charge enclosed by that closed surface. So according to the Gauss law, what is the statement? The total electric flux passing through any closed surface, is equals to 1 by epsilon naught times of 1 by epsilon naught times of net charge enclosed by the surface. Very, very important. What is the statement of the Gauss law? According to the statement of the Gauss law, the total electrical flux which is passing through any closed surface is equal to 1 by epsilon naught times of net charge enclosed by the surface. So, which is represented by total flux. Flux is represented with the symbol of phi. So, according to the Gauss law, total electrical flux passing through any closed surface is equal to 1 by epsilon naught times of Q enclosed. Here Q enclosed is indicating what? Total charge present inside the given surface. So, this is a statement of the Gauss law. Once again, what is the statement of the Gauss law? The total electrical flux passing through any closed surface is equal to 1 by epsilon naught times of the Q net or Q enclosed, that is calling as a word statement of the Gauss law. Already we know that if you consider any one of the surface, in that surface if I consider ds amount of area, in that surface I consider what? ds amount of area. So, if a q amount of charge was present inside the closed surface, the amount of the flux which is passing through the smaller area, will be considered as a d phi. So, what I consider here? I am assuming that d phi amount of the flux which is passing through the small amount of area ds, according to the definition of the electrical flux, d phi will be defined as E bar dot ds bar. Already we defined the definition of the electrical flux. It is a scalar product of electric field intensity and area vector. So, here I consider this is one of the closed surface. I am assuming that inside the closed surface, small q amount of charge was present. So, over the entire closed surface, I consider a small portion whose area is equal to ds. So, I am assuming that through the small area ds, small amount of the flux only passing. Whenever the area will be more, flux is also more. So, here I consider the small amount of area ds only. So, I am assuming that through the small amount of area ds, d phi amount of the flux will be passing. Already we know the flux definition. Flux phi is equal to E bar dot ds bar. So, here I consider the smaller area, as a result smaller flux will be there. So, that the amount of the flux which is passing through the smaller area is equal to E bar dot ds bar. If I want to calculate the entire flux, which is passing through the entire closed surface, for that purpose, total flux passing through the entire closed surface is equal to what? Integral d phi. Total flux is equal to what? Integral d phi. Already we know, if you know the small amount of the value, for calculating the entire thing, we have to consider the integration. Therefore, total flux is equal to what? Integral d phi. But d phi value is equal to what? E bar dot ds bar. Therefore, total flux passing through any closed surface is equal to surface integral E bar dot ds bar. Why we consider the surface integral? Because we have to consider the entire surface area. For that purpose, we consider the surface integral. Therefore, total flux is equal to surface integral E bar dot ds bar. Again, according to the statement of the Gauss law, we will write whose value is equal to Q by epsilon naught. So this is a single statement of the Gauss law in terms of the flux, electric field intensity and charge. So this is the Gauss law. What is the Gauss law? According to the Gauss law, the total electrical flux which is passing through any closed surface is equal to 1 by epsilon naught times the total charge enclosed by the surface. This is a statement of the Gauss law which can be used to find the electrical field intensity which is produced by the charge distributed objects. So in the next class, we will discuss the applications of the Gauss law. Very, very important questions, 5 marks questions. In the next class, we will discuss those applications. Okay, thank you.